Welcome. Whoops. Good morning. Welcome to the County Board meeting. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is open forum. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak? Anyone here who'd like to speak? Anyone here who'd like to speak? Okay, review and approval of the minutes of August 11th.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Lubke. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Review and approve the agenda.
Madam Chair, we have no changes or additions today.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
Madam Chair, just a question on 5.5, out-of-state conference. Can somebody come forward and just explain what that's going to be? You know, obviously, I always want to make sure that we're sending somebody and they're coming back with that knowledge to train other people. So can you just explain what that's all about?
Yeah, so the out-of-state travel, you did approve an additional agent to go a couple weeks, month or so ago to this same conference. We then received an additional funding source to send a second agent. So that's what this is in reference to.
Karen, what is the conference?
Can you pull up the information, Amber? My apologies. I didn't bring a copy with me.
Madam Chair, another thing is a lot of times different, like I would say the attorneys, and they have continuing ed. Is this continuing ed that they need to keep their licensure?
So agents are not licensed, but it's certainly continuing education related to the type of work. So you can see that the training sessions improve on the coordinated community response for domestic violence. We've had a significant growth in our domestic violence caseload ever since the pandemic. And so we're looking at new and innovative ways, quite honestly, to treat individuals or help them get to their training around appropriate behaviors and practices before entering the entire court process. And so this helps us understand in a way to some of those offending behaviors and how best to help treat those individuals.
For clarification, Madam Chair, there's no charge to the county, correct?
No, everything will be funded.
That's sufficient, I guess. I just, you know, I think we need to point out that even though it's not funded by the county, it's still taxpayer dollars that are being spent, and we'll want to make sure that there's a good explanation of why. It's expensive to travel, it's expensive to stay somewhere, and want to make sure that we're doing it for a good reason, good reasoning. So, Madam Chair, if there's no other questions on the consent agenda, I would so move the adoption of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Barrows. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Community Services.
All right, so today we have a presentation from Lighthouse Beginnings. We had our Blade Steering Committee a week or so ago, and during that meeting, we had a presentation around Lighthouse Beginnings and their need for some funding from our opioid dollars. So they are the ones actually presenting to you today. We also have representatives from our Blade Steering Committee, Jess Schwartz and Richard Gruntner.
Morning.
Richard, come on up. I am Jessica Schwartz, and I am on that Blade Steering Committee with Richard as well. We had the opportunity at our last meeting to hear about this need for funding for Lighthouse Beginnings. Really, the reason we wanted to bring this forward is because, as Ashley's going to tell us, they are serving a need that is much needed in our community, but also it is a need not being met somewhere else and being challenged by current funding challenges. We know that this is a funding request outside of our regular RFP offering that we have done, and as a steering committee, we felt like this need was urgent enough that we did approve it moving forward to you guys for approval as well. So we just want to say that as people who take care of people who struggle with substance use disorder, having housing before you try to attempt to go to treatment is very, very important. Having an address to get picked up at, having the ability to get some social services things lined up, and having the ability to abstain from substances really only happens when people have secure housing and a place to lay their head at night. So we really firmly believe that this is the best interest for the people of Crow Wing County coming from those opioid settlement funds.
Again, Richard Gruntner, licensed alcohol and drug counselor, work over at community services, case management, work with drug court populations, alternatives incarceration, also providing case management for individuals struggling with substance use disorders. I'll just make aware, one of the pressing issues that have recently occurred with the legislative changes in July 1st was the shift from county approving behavioral health funds to grant access for individuals to access treatment. That transition to the state making those approvals. Why initially their promises were they were going to be able to approve those within 5 days, even with that 5-day window. Prior to that, when we were doing the approvals, we were getting them approved sometimes the same day or the next day at the very latest, and in most cases. And currently, as it stands, with the state taking over all 87 counties in the state of Minnesota, those timelines have drastically increased to 10 to 13 business days. So we're talking 2 weeks where an individual is on the street or having to return to those environments when they are ready to access help. That motivation can quickly change, especially with individuals' circumstances, if they're living on the street or if they're having a shelter with individuals that are still actively using and not seeking that same change in their lives. So this is where the issue became very pressing on us in the sense that this house we've been utilizing already for a year from the last RFP, and we've had a number of individuals that have been able to access treatment and have a safe place to stay before they could actually enter the door and receive that help. So Ashley's going to share a presentation on the impact they've been making so far. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm Ashley. This is Jesse. He also works in housing. Thank you for allowing us to share this morning. So Alora is our pre-treatment house. It's a short-term residential home setting that helps individuals remain engaged in recovery while awaiting inpatient for substance use disorder treatment. Alora provides stability, accountability, encouragement, and recovery support so guests can successfully take the next step in their recovery journey. As behavioral health funding approvals transition from county level review to state level approval, we anticipate longer authorization timelines. Alora serves as a critical bridge during this waiting period, helping individuals remain engaged and recovery focused while treatment and funding decisions are pending. We are committed to remaining flexible with the lengths of stay whenever possible to ensure that an individual does not lose access to support when they're ready to and motivated to get into treatment.
The Laura House service includes, what we provide is 24-hour supervision, so there's a staff on site for constant need if there is any that need to be met. We also give peer support, which is encouragement, accountability, and lived experience for total support and everyday activity. Safe structure housing, a maximum of 15 days with flexibility with the appropriate based on treatment and funding approvals. Assistance with treatment and application and documentation. We help provide service to get applicated into treatment as well as any documentation that needs to be processed in the next steps going forward. Access to Lighthouse Beginnings, excuse me. Our facility is open 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have active peer support in the center as well as a day center that they can come to for 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch. And then care coordination and connection to community resources. Connections to outgoing treatment or ongoing treatments, community resource supports, and promote long-term success through the housing and what we provide.
The impact of Allura. So it increases access to inpatient treatment. When somebody expresses to us that they are ready for treatment, we want to get them to Allura House right away because we don't want to lose them. We know that when somebody's ready, then they're ready. So while they're there, we help them get their paperwork turned in. We make sure that they have everything they need to go to treatment, such as clothing, hygiene products, just the things that will set somebody up for success. It helps remain connected, helps individuals remain connected to recovery supports while awaiting treatment. Supports readiness, supports recovery readiness, improves engagement, reduces the risk of losing individuals during critical periods when they are ready to enter treatment.
So we have a 50% individual served as a Allura successful transition into inpatient SUD. This outcome demonstrates the value of providing a safe, supportive environment during a critical period when individuals are at high risk of disengaging from treatment or returning to substance use. As state level behavioral health funding approval, create the potential for longer wait times, Allura's ability to provide stable housing and flexible support becomes even more important. By bridging the gap between seeking, helping, and accessing formal treatment services, Allura improves the likelihood of successful treatment and long-term recovery.
I think 50% is pretty good considering. We do have individuals that have gone through and then, they disappear, right? They leave, they don't make it back at curfew, and then we end up seeing them down the road. Keeping Allura open, investing in a vital bridge to treatment. The lease at Allura is $1,200 a month. That does not include utilities. It does not include the staff that we have there. The real investment, rent is only part of what it takes to keep Allura open. 24-hour supervision, utilities, maintenance, and other ongoing costs to run Allura. Lighthouse does not recoup any of the costs to run Allura, meaning this is not a place that generates income for us. It's just a need that needed to be met in the community. The ask would be $20,000. That is what we were awarded last year for Blade. We were able to pay the rent up front for the whole year. That makes sure that we have money to cover utilities and toilet paper and paper towels and just the things that go with housing.
Madam Chair, a question on that. The request that we have in our packet is $14,400, and now you're saying it's a request for $20,000.
Well, we would take the $14,400 because that would just cover the rent, and the lease is due on September 1st. So if it's available, great. If it's not, that's okay too. So we're saying we would take a reduced just to be able to stay open.
What about the committee? You're on the committee, aren't you? And you and Commissioner Lubke. So what was the request there?
The request was the $14,000, and it came to the committee, and it was really well vetted, because we have an opening when we open for grants and stuff like that. But this one came up, and our steering committee felt it was important enough because of the situation of getting people. There is that real critical time when they make that choice and getting them into treatment. And the treatment places are already lined up for these people to go. It's just that waiting period. And if they can't be found, it's hard to get them into treatment. It was, what I wanted to make sure, this is not like another recovery home. This is actually just a real interim
It is.
transition, and like you said, it's only 15 days.
Yes, yep, the max stay is 15 days. Again, we're willing to be flexible if, you know, we're communicating. We work closely with Crow Wing County Social Services, so if there's communication and we know that it's going to go a little longer, that's okay. But we want to see people getting in within that 15 days. This is not a recovery home. Yeah, it's just the interim.
And one of the other concerns was that there is somebody in that house 24/7.
There is, yes.
You know, and,
Yep.
that house, has there been any challenges? You've already been in that house now, it's the same house, correct?
It's same house, yep.
Yep. And have you had any challenges as far as neighborhoods or
No.
people needing to be called in, or the police needing police reports or anything like that called in?
No, not, and you would think that we would, but we haven't, no.
Well, I was hoping you won't. But,
It hasn't.
but
It's been
we-
pretty quiet,
Yeah,
actually.
but it could happen, okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so when it came to us, we wanted it to come here because it needs to come here, and we didn't want to wait until the next funding stream in order to do that, because they could lose that place to do that. So just a timing issue, so.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. And
Madam Chair, so you say there's a need. How many people are needing this?
Yep. So last year we had, well, in the year of 2025, we served, I believe, 40 individuals through that house. I would say we only probably don't have, I've seen there be nobody in the house maybe for like 4 days. Otherwise, we stay pretty consistent with having people come through. So, because we do have our drop-in center, and we have people come through the drop-in center as well, who have built relationship and decided they're ready, and so that's how people are getting there as well.
And Madam Chair, how do people find you? Is it all referrals, or how does that? Can you explain how that works?
Yes, it is referral based. So we do, again, we get referrals from the jail, we get referrals from social services, we get referrals from the hospital, and we get referrals from the drop-in center.
So Madam Chair, so this is, in essence, it's kind of like a sober house, but it's not a long-term sober house. Is that what it is?
Essentially. So,
I would say an emergency bed almost.
yeah, I would say it's more of an emergency in between. It allows for people to be able to get into sober transition with a short-term stay to keep them off of the streets from relapsing and giving them a chance to get into treatment.
Okay. Now, Madam Chair, so does Aurora get paid from the state for individuals that are staying there?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I might ask, of any one of you four, who in the world decided the state could do this better, realizing that time is critical? Who in the world came up with the idea that they would ever, you know, they make a promise. I've seen that before in my life. They never can hold themselves to that promise. Do you know who in the world made that? I'd like to talk to them.
I think all of us would, and the hope is just that the need will be seen and met, because it is a critical need.
Well, just for your knowledge, I will attempt to find out who at DHS made that decision, because that's the worst decision they could have made. The counties can administer this much better. You're on the ground, you see the need, you know the need, you know how critical the timing is. This is crazy that the state would think they could do it better than you folks. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, maybe a question for Kara Terry. So how much, what's the amount left in the Blade account?
We are over $800,000 in the Blade account at this time. So we have a significant amount of money.
Is that, Madam Chair, so is any of that spoken for, or is that all unspoken for?
So we do have positions coming out of that for social services. We have 2 positions that are paid out of the Blade or the opioid funds. We also have an administrative fee that's taken out because we're tracking all of the dollars, and so we get a 10 or 15% administration fee. But those are, well, and then we also have some of the grant dollars that were already approved. That grant cycle is coming to an end with the final reporting in September. So no additional dollars coming out there. yeah, we are, safe to say, we have the funding to be able to make this happen.
And Madam Chair, can you just explain the two positions that they're fully funded by the opioid dollars?
Correct.
Okay, can
Yep.
you explain
And they
those
work with-
positions and what they do?
So best described would be Richard, because he's one of the positions doing the work, but the other position, they work specifically as substance use disorder clients and help with that case management piece, getting folks to treatment, supporting them in the jails if they're there, excuse me, providing oversight and feedback into programs like the Alternatives to Incarceration program, supporting the BLADE initiatives, like the Recovery Walk coming up in September. They do a lot related to substance misuse in our community.
So then, Madam Chair, so then at some point, the opioid dollars or the payments are going to cease because that they'll be, the pharmaceutical companies will have paid their penance, I guess. And so then how will you fund those positions then? Will that be off the property taxes?
So we do know or anticipate at this time we'll get about $250,000 each year based on those settlement funds. And we have it projected out over the next 14 or so years to receive the $200,000. If the dollars go away though, then we look at what we do with the positions, whether that's through attrition to reduce positions that way. You know, substance use disorder is such a significant issue in our community, and so I would hate to see all of that work go away, but if we don't have the funding to support it, then we don't have the funding to support it. The great news is right now, we do have the funding to support it, and we anticipate it longer term.
Madam Chair. So with this, and this maybe is a question for Deb, that opiate funding, that chunk of money that we have sitting there right now, sits in an interest-bearing account at the county?
Yes.
And then the interest of that, does that come back into that program?
No.
It does not. So even every year, like if it's $800,000, if we're getting 4%, that's $32,000 a year. Where does that money go then?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Lubke, it goes into the general fund. It's used to offset operations throughout the organization.
Okay, so there is part of that money going right in, kind of like the SCORE funding from the.
Exactly like
from
the SCORE
yeah,
funding.
Where they supposedly get the SCORE funding, then all of a sudden the state takes so much of the SCORE funding and puts it in their own general fund.
Correct.
This is pretty much what we're doing with this too also.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to have that clear.
Madam Chair, just a couple quick ones. How long is someone generally in your facility then, since the state is overrunning their self-imposed 5-day to 13 days? What are they doing? How long are they with you normally?
So typically within this specific house, it's a maximum of 15 days unless there's like a capability of getting them in treatment shortly after, then we might extend for a couple days. But I think since I've been working with them, the longest that I've seen currently has been within a week. Most of them get transitioned out pretty quick. But they've been told that there has been cases where if it is at that cusp of 15 days and they're just waiting for a bed to open, they will extend it a day or two.
Okay. And then this is here locally in Crow Wing County somewhere, correct?
Correct.
Yep. Is it all Crow Wing County residents?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all I've got. Thanks.
Madam Chair, if there's no other questions, I would make the motion to approve.
So, just, Madam Chair, I'll wait for a second on that. I guess I got a question after.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Chair, so my question to Commissioner Barrows is, the request is 14,400, but they're asking for 20,000. What are you?
Thank you, Commissioner. It would be the 14,400.
Okay.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Lubke. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Land Services.
Good morning.
Good
We
morning.
have Madam Chair, members of the board, we have 2 items for your consideration this morning. The first request is for the final plat of the second addition to Eagleview Estates for parcel numbers 5918-0604, 5918-0606, and 5918-0609, located in Section 18 of Deerwood Township. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment recommended approval of the plat on September 18th of 2025, and the board approved the preliminary plat on October 18th of 2025. We received a comment from Deerwood Township dated September 8th of 2025, saying they had no recommendation regarding the plat. We also received an email from Deerwood Township on August 5th of 2026 stating that the roads, which are Eagles Nest Drive and Eagles Nest Court, meets township standards. All requirements have been met for the final plat application, and we recommend approval as submitted. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Give me 1 second. Fumble fingers here, sorry. Looking at this, I'm trying to, this is off of, like over by Cedar Lake, correct?
This would be, I can put the, this map up on the screen if this might be.
If you want to just show it to me, that's fine too, but. Where do you see that at?
Down on the bottom. It's right down here. Lot 6, where it shows right out.
So here we've
Oh,
got.
12, okay.
Yeah,
Now I
so
know
that
where we're
gives
at.
you an orientation.
Yep,
Pretty good.
we're good then. I was wondering about, I thought this was that portion off of Vision where we were dealing with the wetland, so. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lee, second by Commissioner Coring. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. The final request this morning is for the final plat of Oak Ridge Terrace for parcel number 7706-0515, located in Section 6 of Mission Township. The Planning Commission Board of Adjustment recommended approval of the plat on May 21st of 2026, and the County Board approved the preliminary plat on June 9th of 2026. We received a resolution from Mission Township dated April 13th of 2026 approving the preliminary plat. We also received an email from Mission Township on August 17th, 2026 stating that the road, which is Oak Terrace Way, substantially conforms to the township's road standards. All requirements have been met for the final plat application, and we recommend approval as submitted. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So, Madam Chair, a question on that. You said that Mission Township approved it. So is this that where they're doing part of their planning and zoning? Is it because, or they just gave a recommendation?
No,
or-
correct. Madam Chair, Commissioner Coring, Mission Township has adopted an ordinance that they approve plats as well up in Mission Township. So it's a concurrent process that when you apply for a plat in Mission Township, you would apply at the township, then you
Right.
apply at the county as well. So they do their process, and then they will send us, if it gets approved, then they send us a resolution, then we take it to the public hearing and finish out the process on our end. But it's a concurrent process with the county and with Mission Township.
So, Madam Chair, the first step is Mission Township, then with what they've adopted, and if it doesn't make it through Mission Township, then it's done here, right?
Correct. If it doesn't get approved, but it isn't something where you do your Mission Township first and then come apply at the county. We've got the process set up so they march kind of down the path concurrently at the same time. And so by the time that they go through their, holding their public hearing and having their planning commission meetings and have their town board act, it's before we get to the public hearing on our end so that it's not slowing people down and stuff. The township has done a nice job of working with our process so that it's not being an extra burden to put on a property owner.
So then, Madam Chair and Chris, so then I would assume that Mission probably has a fee, and then we have a fee.
Correct. Yep.
Correct.
Yep. They have to pay fees to the township and to the county. Correct.
Okay.
Other discussion?
Madam Chair, Chris, is the resolution in your packet from Mission?
The resolution was in the packet for the preliminary plat. So we didn't
Okay, so it
include
wasn't in, it's not in the
Yep,
final, okay.
that was in the packet that you had for preliminary plat back in June.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve the Oak Ridge Terrace final plat, Mission Township.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lee, motion by Commissioner Lubke, second by Commissioner Lee. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey. County Sheriff.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners, and everyone else that present today. I know you know who I am, but just for those that are here and those that may be watching, my name is Tina Elder. I'm the Administrative Manager of the Crow Wing County Sheriff's Office, and I'm here today with an update in regards to the 365 Labs project that you approved in December of 2024, and that has been an ongoing project in the background for some time now. If that works for you, I'll just go into that update and then speak to you about what we need from you today, if that's okay. As a reminder, back in December of 2024, the board approved entering into a contract with a company called 365 Labs. It was a contract allowing us to update our CAD, mobile, records management, and jail management system for all of law enforcement. The terms of the contract were taken into account or were negotiated, taking into account that we were going to be first in state with this vendor, and that we wanted to ensure that the amount of time that we committed allowed us to maintain a set increase so that we weren't vulnerable to every year's updates. Thank you for your approval of that. That allowed us to enter into a 2-year implementation period that began in January of 2025. That 2-year implementation was intended to give us time to get this vendor vetted at the state level. Just so you know, that took 7 months to make the vetting happen. So Commissioner Barrows, in regards to your comment earlier, not so sure why they always think the state can do it better, but we got through that. After that, it also gave us time to identify and build the necessary interfaces that we needed with the state and to ensure that the system allowed for all the current state mandates. The additional time has allowed us to become more acquainted with the system and to revisit the commitments we were making to the products that we were asking for and the licenses that were needed. We've had several changes that have occurred during this 1.5-year period, and that includes that we had 2 interfaces for the jail that we had contracted for that were found to be redundant at the state level. We were able to drop one of those interfaces, and we were able to transfer that money to account for an interface that had not been recognized during the initial scope. We also had an interface to eCrash that we were expecting to have a third party provide some system updates for, and we have identified that working in the state of Minnesota, that additional expense tied to that third party was not going to be required. We've reviewed the applications that we are pulling from that we had contracted for, and we found that fleet management was not necessary for 6 out of 10 of the agencies that we had contracted for. So we were able to drop that. And we have small fluctuations in our license counts. So something I should remind you guys of is that when we negotiated the contract originally, we knew that the system was beyond what we had been used to. And we knew that although we were doing our best guess at what we were going to need, it was going to be important for us to build this relationship with this vendor to really zone in on what was required. And in so doing is how we were able to identify these changes that were needed. One of our negotiated terms was that during this 2-year implementation, we could make changes to that contract to account for things like this so that we were not locked in. Once we go live, then we're locked into a 10-year commitment to them on an ongoing basis. Commissioner Barrows, during that period of discussion, when I was presenting to you before, you had asked, well, is all the liability on the county side, or do our city partners also share in that liability? And I had assured you we would take care of that. So part of what's here, I'm here for today is that in the midst of everything, I wanted to make sure you knew that was not forgotten. We have a joint powers agreement before you that was drafted and initially circulated to Don Ryan, Steph Shook, Kelsey Hops, an outside attorney that was brought in to give us another perspective, as well as the attorneys for both the City of Brainerd and the City of Baxter. Once everybody was on the same page and we all agreed to what that joint power agreement looked like, it was given out to the cities. Some of the things that that joint powers agreement highlights is that it reaffirms that each agency is participating in a joint system amongst law enforcement, that it commits those jurisdictions to the same 10-year period of time that we are committed to here at the county. It extends to those cities the same terms that we were able to negotiate for ourselves and gives them the same assurances. And it also identifies the responsibilities that we each have to each other in regards to being involved in a shared system. As of last night, I am happy to report that all 9 of our partnering cities have signed off on this agreement. You have 8 of them in your packet now. The 9th one was the city of Deerwood. They met last night and had no objections. I'm told by the chief of police, Mark Taylor, that he is currently on his way to the mayor's house to get it signed. He will have it back to me. I will get it to Amber and Deb, and you guys can sign off on it if you so choose. What we are looking for from you today is to finalize those agreements so that we can have them in place and continue to move forward. Before I move on in my update, does anyone have any questions specific to the agreements?
You just answered one of them. I was wondering why Deerwood wasn't in there. But then the other question I had is, I don't foresee them ever doing it, but what happens if Emily decides to reorganize their police department? Does that change anything with dollar values or any agreements?
At this point in time, if Emily were to come back on board, Emily would have to be quoted out separately with the vendor. One of the things that we have agreed to is once we're locked into the terms of the contract, that anything beyond that doesn't necessarily get the same favor that we've gotten with everything leading up to this point. I've been told, Commissioner, that it doesn't look as though Emily is going to restart, but if they do, that's the way we would have to handle it. We'd have to assess where they're at and then meet with the vendor. If we can renegotiate and get similar terms on their behalf, we would, but our contract, the Joint Powers Agreement that you guys will be signing, identifies for each of the cities that any changes beyond this initial lock-in is going to be at whatever the current pricing is with the vendor, and they will be responsible for it. The county would not bear that expense.
And I don't believe Emily will either. I just know there's some that are hopeful that it would, but, and if they chose not to down the road, if they chose to start up their own department again and chose not to be part of this, then they're not mandated to be part of this, right? They could go back to 3x5 cards if they wanted to, or?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, can you, I didn't catch all that.
If Emily Police Department decided to reorganize.
Yes.
But they couldn't afford this to be part of this system, they could still function any way they wanted to individually, correct?
That's absolutely right. The same is true of all of our partners. That was something that the chief of police had to think through and they had to work with their city councils on. We did not strong arm anybody into this system. Everyone had the opportunity to walk away if they so choose. The reality is by doing it together as a group, they not only get the benefit of all the shared information and the shared data, but they also get a lot of the expense. They get to piggyback on the expense that's already been borne by the county. So having things like servers or technical support in place, the county is doing that on their behalf, so that's an expense they don't have to have at the city level. Had any of these cities opted to go solo, chances are good that to find a system that would work for them would be significantly more than what we're asking for to be part of the system.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. So Tina, this is all the departments in Crow Wing County? No, okay. So if St. Matthias wanted to have their own department and have me be the chief, could we go?
Lord help us.
Yeah, Lord help us. I'll pray for you.
You absolutely could go about the process. I actually haven't even, despite my tenure, I haven't seen where somebody starts up a new department. Maybe, Commissioner, you have some experience with that.
Emily started it while you were there.
Did Emily start while I was there? Well, it wasn't on my radar at the time. So I'm not sure what's involved at the state level, but you knock yourself out, and when you're ready to be part of the system, you let me know.
Maybe that'll be after my commissioner stint here.
There you go. So if there are no further questions on the Joint Powers Agreement, I would like to give you the rest of the update regarding where we're at with the rest of the implementation. Does that work? Thank you, Madam Chair. So in this period of time, we've also built teams to represent our CAD, our mobile, RMS, and JMS partners. Each one of those groups has vendor consultants that have been assigned and working with them. Many of the groups have met every other week for 2-hour blocks and have been working to identify and flesh out what the current business practices are, discuss how that looks in the new 365 Labs environment, and set up any code tables that we have, system features that need to be explored, and continue on with those conversations. We've had some setbacks. I'd be lying if I told you everything's gone perfect. On a project this size, there's always going to be setbacks. So some of those setbacks, or as I like to call them, things that have had to be worked through, is a change in funding that was available through Sourcewell. That changed after the first year, so everyone had to get their heads around that. Thankfully, it did not have a significant impact on what we're doing here at the county, but it was definitely a consideration the cities had to keep in mind. We had a change to our anticipated go-live date. We originally said we were going to go live on January 1st, 2027, hence the 2 years. The vendor did not want to be on site over the holidays. I forget, it's a new world, different commitments, you know, more work-life balance. When I brought it to the steering committee, I asked them how they'd like to handle it. Do we want to draw a line? That's what we asked for, that's what we're getting. Do they want to be flexible and go into January? They surprised me when they said, let's bump it up, let's do December 1. So our new go-live date is December 1. GIS mapping has been a bit of a challenge for us. We've worked with Nate and IT. We've looped in some of our other internal partners to try to work through some of the mapping. This new system is very location-centric, and it's going to rely on good mapping data to be fed into the system on a regular basis. We continue to work through some of those things. System setup, CAD, mobile, and JMS are all in really good shape. The teams have made really good progress, and they're scheduled to begin their testing. CAD has already begun. Mobile and JMS will begin within the next week or two. Our RMS team is behind. Our RMS team has representatives of all the PDs. We've been attending meetings just like all the other groups, but there just hasn't been the same connection, the same gel, the same understanding. So we have consulted with the vendor consultant that was provided to us, and he is going to be coming on site next week. We have 3 days that we're going to pull the teams in, and for those 3 solid days, we're going to be working in person rather than remotely, and we're going to be knocking out the expectations that they have for RMS. And then, of course, we've had a few issues working with the state. We've had access to state testing sites be a challenge for us, as well as the full integration into a 100% cloud-based system. There have been some roadblocks provided by the state, and we're currently working with the state to try to break those barriers down as best we can. So the timeline originally outlined had some flexibility, thankfully, to account for some of these things, and I'm happy to report today we're still on track. We have to do some running to catch up on a few things, but we're still planning on that December 1 go live. In the month of September, we'll be finalizing things with the vendor testing and do as much of our state testing as possible. We will be setting up all users and not just the test users, and we will be finalizing our licensing counts to finalize that contract. We will be moving from a staging environment to a testing environment, and we're anticipating beginning our user training in the second half of October. We're going to work to identify those system gaps that are found out during that training period and try to get those done so that we can be ready on December 1. Of course, as they're identifying those gaps, they'll have to reassess, is December 1 viable? If not, we still have all of December, and we contracted a couple things out through January if we absolutely needed to push that time back. Currently, we're still shooting for December 1. Once they identify that, the team will move to production, and then it will be go live. During go live, we have all 3 of our vendors, consultants that we've been working with, that will be here for the week on site, making sure that everything goes well during on live. Any questions regarding any of that?
So, Madam Chair, so just, Tina, just, maybe you can just explain, the county board obviously knows what this is, but I have a lot of constituents that watch this, and then they'll email me and say, what's that all about? So can you just explain what this is? It's a software that helps all the departments keep track of all their filing. Can you just give it like an example of that?
Yeah,
What this
absolutely.
is?
Currently, in Crow Wing County, all of law enforcement has been on the same system since May of 2007. We refer to it as LATG because that was the original name of the software. The system that we are talking about is the system that is used when you pick up the phone and you call 911. Our dispatchers log into this system and they have access to maps and what officers are on duty. They have access to information that comes in with that 911 call in case you're not in a position to be able to answer key questions for us. It's what gets the wheels moving so that our first responders, whether it's medical, fire, or law enforcement, know that you are in need and help is on its way. The system also has the mobile component, so when an officer gets in the car or if he's out and about patrolling the county, what information is taken in by dispatch goes into the mobile unit, and that officer has everything on his computer that he needs to respond to that call. He can interact with dispatch through those communications, through that software, by saying that he's en route, he's on scene, he has someone in custody. He's cleared, nothing more is needed. That communication is all happening with this new system. Likewise, when an officer comes back and does their reports, that information then is processed through our records group, whether it is sent on to a prosecutor's office, whether it is just filed and coded and reported to the state. All of what records does is maintained within this system. If there's an investigation that needs to occur, our investigators are using the system to keep track of all of their notes, all the information that they gather as they work to solve that case. If somebody is arrested, then all the information regarding who we have across the street, what they were booked on, how they were booked, what the courts had to say in regards to that, all of that information is contained within the same system. By having a joint system, it allows law enforcement and other first responders to be more consistent in their responses. It also allows them to have a bigger sense of the picture. I used to say that when we went with the original system, gone are the days when I can say, yeah, I didn't know my tail light was out. Thanks for giving me a warning. Because if that officer goes back to the system and sees I told Deerwood the same thing last week and I told Crosby the same thing 3 weeks ago, they might not be as lenient. So that's a little ha-ha thing that it allows us to do, but it also allows us to ensure that if we have civil papers on somebody and that you're calling and you're saying that you're being stalked or that somebody is at your house and they're not supposed to be there, we don't have to make 1,000 phone calls to come up with that information. We can look within our system, pull up the information, and within a few phone calls, we have what we need to be able to provide you the service that is fair to everybody that's on scene, efficient, and safe for everybody concerned. Does that suffice, Commissioner?
That was absolutely awesome. That really explains the tools that are needed in law enforcement now. It's just, it's what you need, so.
In 2007, I sat in a room and I had about 50 officers sitting there, and I was training them how to use the mobiles for the first time. One of the officers raised his hand and he said, when I asked him what his question was, he said, you know, you're gonna have us all killed. And I said, excuse me, and he goes, there's no way that I can do what I need to do and be safe. If I have my head on the computer and I'm typing all this in, my back will be unprotected and you're gonna get one of us shot. I assured him that wasn't my goal in training him how to use the mobiles, but Commissioner Lee could probably attest to this. It wasn't very long after we adopted it, maybe 3-4 months, and our system went down once. And every officer in the field was, I can't do my jobs, my computer's gone, what am I supposed to do? It was real quick to make the transition. And having those tools available allows officers to focus on the things that we all as citizens want and need those officers to be focused on. It takes much more time to handwrite out those things and to file them and to process them than it does using today's technology. We've had LETG since 2007, that's almost 17, 18 years now. We wanted, with this new system, to move into something that would give us even more of today's technology and allow us to continue to move ahead and provide services the way the citizens deserve to have those services provided.
Madam Chair. Tina, is this a cloud system? Or
It is.
It is, so it's on a data center somewhere.
They have, they're in a government cloud, so we did have IT vet that for us before we signed the contract, that it was an approved cloud service. One of the things that were super attractive to us was that there were going to be 4 or 5 servers across the United States, that if one server went down, we just automatically flipped to one of the other servers, whichever was most available, and it was guaranteeing next to no downtime for us. That's incredibly attractive in law enforcement, because I've been before the board across the years asking for money for redundancy. Board has always been super supportive. The challenges have always come with the execution at the IT level as far as how to do that most efficiently so that we don't have equipment just sitting around, but we have something to back us up in that case of a tornado or something coming through. By having it in the cloud, we have that built-in redundancy, and that was really important to us. One of the setbacks I mentioned was that the state has been reluctant to give us connection, or we've been told that the state of Minnesota is not open to that. And so the state has, based on what we've been told by the vendor, we have set up a virtual server that contains some of our connections to the state, which is less than ideal and we're not happy about. I've got conversations going with the state in regards to that, because I'm hearing that the state's position is not what we were told the state's position is. So I've got the vendor and the state working together. I have Jason and Matt from IT participating in the overall review of what they're saying, and we're trying to figure out where the truth lies. Ideally, we wanted 100% in the cloud. That's what we signed up for, that's what we were paying for, that's what we need, and that's what we expected. If it's the state of Minnesota, we can't hold the vendor accountable for that. But if it is the vendor, then we need the vendor to make it right. So we're working through that. But that is one of the most attractive parts of the system.
One more question then. Is there anybody else in the state that is actually using this 365 labs?
No, one of the huge benefits that we got a 50% discount because we're first in state. They have to have someone sponsoring them to even be granted access to the systems that they needed to build. So Crow Wing County is first in state. That said, there are at least 4 other counties that I know are currently in negotiations with 365 labs or are sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how it works for us. I just talked to a representative yesterday that said Scott County is one of them. There's a huge group in the metro area that has hired, ironically, the original founder of LETG to serve as their consultant, and they're pooling their funds together to consider a new system. They're looking at 365 labs, and there's 2 or 3 other counties that are also in negotiations with them. Having a good, smooth rollout at Crow Wing County is going to be very beneficial to that vendor, so it's in their best interest to do everything they can to service us and to make things go as they have promised.
Thank you.
Any other questions on what I've said so far? If not, I'll wrap it up. Madam Chair? So I just wanted to assure you guys that the steering committee remains committed. They meet on a monthly basis. We've had some changes in our steering committee. As a reminder, the steering committee was originally the sheriff, the chief of police at Brainerd, the chief of police at Baxter, Jason representing county IT, and myself. Steering committee has had 2 retirements. Jim Exted from Baxter PD retired, and John Davis from Brainerd PD retired. They were replaced by Matt Meyer at Baxter and John Davis, or excuse me, not John Davis, excuse me, Tony Rundy at Brainerd PD. Both Matt and Tony are as engaged as their predecessors were, and they're active in participating in a number of our teams. We also have Captain Cronstead, who is attending the steering committee meetings on a regular basis and making sure that there's that continuity of representation on the county side. The Crow Wing County Chief of Police meet on a monthly basis, and for the last several months, we've been going to their meetings to give them an update of where we're at with the process, what we need from them, what we don't. We recently met with IT from all of the other agencies, whoever they contract with IT. We pulled our IT and their IT together to explain what it is that will be the county responsibility and where they can help so that they feel included. And we will continue that ongoing communication with everybody, including yourselves. Anybody that wants an update or feels like it's been a while since they've gotten an update, please let us know. I do want to let you know that there is going to be one more change in the steering committee, and that is myself. I am anticipating my retirement this October. After 25 years of public service, I will be stepping down, but you may have noticed another representative of the Sheriff's Office in the audience. Her name is Haley Gotch. Haley has been shadowing in all of the meetings that we attend, and several weeks we attend maybe 5, 6 meetings a week on various topics related to 365. In addition to all of her other responsibilities, Haley's been making it a priority to be in the room to hear what's being said and to know what's going on. So once again, we have continuity regardless of the players. So with all that said, I leave you with those joint power agreements. And Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me time to speak to you today. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to entertain those.
They couldn't talk you into one more month to the finish line, or what?
I don't think so.
Come on, work on it.
So, Madam Chair, the action before you would be to accept to approve the joint powers agreements with all 9 agencies now, given that you have secured the City of Deerwood. Even though it's not one that's in your packet, the language is identical to the 8 that are already in your packet, other than obviously Deerwood-specific information. So the ask would be to approve all 9 JPAs.
Madam Chair, I would move the request for board action, including all 9, including Deerwood.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Lee. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Thank you for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update. Okay, County Attorney.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I don't have anything for you today, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions? Thank you so much. County Administrator.
Madam Chair, the only thing I have for you today is the senior management team report. We did not meet yesterday because we met last Thursday as a follow-up to the budget committee meeting that we had the week before. So our one agenda item last Thursday was further discussion about the budget, which you will be hearing from us in about 3 minutes. So that's all I have today, unless anyone has questions for me.
Okay. Do we have any additional business?
Just a reminder for everyone, Madam Chair, thank you, that Labor Day is coming up, and so we'll have another big weekend in our county, but also kids will be going back to school, so be sure and drive carefully. They aren't always aware of cars and trucks out there, so just remember them when that Tuesday comes and they're all heading back to school. With that, I have nothing else. And if there's no other business, I would make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Coring. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.